Lights out and let's go racing, folks, and it's a very even start from the entire field.
There's a freight train forming behind him right now. He will be as nervous as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I can give you the hot tip. Sideways as a bishop on a chessboard. That was incredible car control.
Oh no, and he's sent it! And he's gone down the inside, and that's a brilliant move.
going for a bit of an ambitious dive now, and oh, there's contact! Here they come now around the final turn on the final lap. They're side by side.
Oh, there's contact there. Someone is going to be hitting the showers early tonight, I'll tell you what.
Crosses the line for P1. Brilliant racing. Absolutely sensational stuff.
This is heart pounding. This is nerves rising. This is sensational TV.
Round 3 of the ASA Le Mans Ultimate Series continues its leg in the Northern Hemisphere at the world-famous Spa-Francorchamps. 19 corners of excellence, intense elevation changes, and danger lurking at any moment is just a few challenging corners away for tonight's 1 hour sprint. Over 100 years ago, the original 14.9 kilometer layout of this circuit held its first event where some of the best motorcycle racers tackled this elevating and changing track with sweeping corners for the first time. Several track layout changes later, and we are presented with motorsport perfection. 7 kilometers in length and 19 iconic corners, including Radion, Eau Rouge, and Pouon. Despite the sheer size of this circuit, tucked away in the mountains of Francorchamps, the small main straight takes the drivers downhill into La Source, one of the tightest corners on the circuit, and opens up the run down the hill into Eau Rouge and Radion, which continues the full throttle run down the Camel Straight, where it's not until turn 7 of Lacombe's that they are greeted with the only second braking zone of the lap. The middle sector is complex corners with downhill braking zones, tyre walls not too far away, and corners like Pouon to penalise any small mistake. The final sector is throttled back to the floor until they head towards the final hurdle of the lap, the bus stop chicane. And just like that, a lap is done around Spa-Francorchamps. This is the ASA Le Mans Ultimate Sprint Series, all live on Sensational TV. Well, welcome back to another round of this series. We are in for an absolute treat with this round at Spa. It is a absolute iconic circuit, and it is going to be one to watch as well. If you did miss the last round of the series, we were at Silverstone, where we saw some thrilling racing and plenty of drama as well with the drivers in between all of the sessions as well. It just wasn't a clean run for nearly everyone. We saw dominance for some, and it was sheer misery for others, but they've got an opportunity here at Spa to turn those tails around and try and change their fortune here this time around. And here in the commentary box, it is myself, Peter Clark. So I welcome you to the third round of this series, and hopefully we are in for an absolute banger. Last time out at Silverstone, it was Mohamed Colombo claiming the win in Hypercar. Your round 1 winner of Alex K did not show for Silverstone. He had a planned absence, and in doing so, he's still just leading the championship. He's actually behind in the championship by one single point by Mohamed Colombo in the Hypercar class, and then in the Hypercar AM class, it's Ricky Packham. He still leads ahead of Sakumarana as well by 8 points in the series. And then in LMP2 class, we saw Christian Guerrero take his second win of the series. He is so far undefeated in LMP2 this season, and he has also got a decent championship lead of 8 points ahead of Matt Nipris. And then also in the LMGT3 class, it was Tyson Robs once again showing who is boss and absolutely dominating this that race as well. And at no point did he really look like he was under threat from another car. And you can see that both Gennaro and Robs leading the way at the moment in this practice session, but you can see now all the cars will be heading off the circuit, because in these last 5 minutes of the practice session, all drivers will be heading to the pit lane to complete a final driver's briefing before we head out for qualifying. And for this one's qualifying, it is going to be slightly different, because for the qualifying, because we've got such a large number of drivers on the track, we have got way more than we have in the first two rounds so far. For qualifying, it's going to be the hypercar and the LMP2s going out at the same time, because around this circuit, the lap records in real life are not too far off each other. So the hypercar lap record set by Kamui Kobayashi in 2023 was a 2-minute 2.3, and then the LMP2 lap record is a 2-minute 1.2, nearly a full second. Well, it is a full second faster, now set by Charles Milesi in 2024. So expect the hypercars and the LMP2s to be very similar on pace, but in this game there, though, you can see that it is actually the hypercars. I've got about 5 seconds on the LMP2 cars, so a little bit of a parity change in that one, or balance of performance, you would say, as well, for this game, to kind of separate them a little bit so they're not all kind of dueling each other, and then to round out the championship standings. So in the LMGT3 Pro Series, we've got Tyson Robb leading the way by Nick Hill, and he's got 8 points over him. And then in LMGT3 AM, you've got Martin Glastonbury. He's leading the way ahead of Race for Life by only a single point. So in a couple of the series, we do have a championship battle really heating up, and it is getting ultra intense for those drivers as well. So expect to see plenty of battling around here as well, especially with the fact that we've got such long straights here to help us promote a bit of racing. A bit of slipstream work is going to help with this one a big time as well. So looking through the order list at the moment, you've got Gottarari leading the way into hypercar for the practice session so far, and he's only got a 10th over Chandra, who we have seen glimpses of fantastic pace, but in both Imola and Silverstone, Chandra has, unfortunately for himself, had some issues. In just last time out, he missed the start and had to crawl his way back from dead last to getting himself inside, I think it was about P7 or P8. He ended up finishing in at the hypercar class, so got himself through all the LMP2 and the LMGT3 cars, which was a fantastic effort for himself, and he's just ahead of Afia as well, who in his Ferrari had fantastic pace in Silverstone, and unfortunately for himself just wasn't able to take advantage of the changing conditions. We had a bit of wet weather, and it was a very interesting race because some drivers opted to try and stay out for a one-stop, try and make the wet weather tyres last to the end, whereas quite a few people ended up being one of the race winning strategies was to go for the two-stop. You start on the dries, you went to the wets when the rain eventually arrived, and then back onto the dries. But that is all that's going to be it for practice here. You've got Gennaro leading the way in LMP2 and Rob's in LMGT3, and in LMP2 is actually incredibly close, less than a 10th between Gennaro and Vintner as well. So look out for that when we come around to qualifying, which is only a short time away. So I'm going to jump to a quick ad break from our sponsors, and I'll see you for qualifying.
Motto is that safe drivers are lifesavers. If your organisation shares this belief and are planning to improve driver education in your community, SDT Simulator Driver Training has the solution. Many of our simulator users are also gaining a revenue stream by taking their simulators to events and schools for driver education programs. The system can also be set up to run motorsport simulation. Many leading racing drivers are now using simulators to improve their skills. Such software can also be used to show drivers they are not as skilled as they think they are. SDT Simulator Driver Training is a division of Safe Drive Training, one of Asia Pacific's leading driver training providers. We offer affordable driving simulators that are assembled in our Brisbane head office. SDT simulators are now in use across Australia and are expanding into international markets due to their affordable price, unique features, and customization for driver training. Depending on the simulator model being purchased, you will receive a range of training resources to help you to facilitate quality driver education. SDT is the exclusive distributor of Fatal Vision alcohol impairment goggles, marijuana simulation goggles, and drowsy and distracted blinking goggles. All are used to demonstrate the dangers of such impairments on the driver. Also available are driver training posters, driving handbooks, and distracted driving resources. Our simulators make the perfect training tool for drivers to experience how various impairments affect their performance. Contact Simulator Driver Training for more information.
Lights out and let...
Well, welcome back from the ad break. We have gone green for qualifying, which is extremely exciting to see how this is all gonna play out. We have got some big names here as well, and one thing I have just realized I have forgotten to mention is that your winner from round 1 of Alex K is not present in round 3, and your round 2 winner from Silverstone of Mohamed Colombo is also not present. So we could be going here for a third different winner in the hypercar class, and this is going to really spice things up in the championship, having 3 different race winners from the first 3 rounds, as now the first cars are out on the circuit. So it's a split qualifying here with the LMP2s and the hypercars going out on track first, because these cars are pretty similar on pace. So having these guys around on the circuit first allows them to get their laps in without any traffic, and then without the rush of one of these beasts coming up from behind for the LMGT3 cars. From the 10-minute mark, the LMGT3s will be out, and then all the hypercar and LMP2 cars will also be off the circuit as well. So we have got a bit of a split session here. It's 20 minutes. The first 10 belong to hypercar and LMP2. So let's try and see what sort of lap times these guys can whip up for themselves here. So the race lap record for these cars around here is a 2-minute 2. We saw in practice they were getting pretty close. They were in a 2-minute 2s, and then the LMP2s were a little bit further off of the real life lap record, and they were down in the 2-minute 7s. So this is going to be a very interesting qualifying session coming up here, and it is Harry Lawrence, the first man on circuit here in his BMW. If you're new to the series, these cars, and for the BMW specifically, they run a 4-litre twin-turbo V8 producing about 650 horsepower, so they are beasts to say the least. And so let's jump on board for a lap here and see what it takes to tackle this brilliant circuit here. And we're going to have a look as well to see what he can do around this place. We're going to have the second times up as well. You can see a little twitch there onto the entry into the first corner, and that is La Source. And now the run down the hill, because now you're coming up to a Rouge, and then at the top of the hill it's going to be Radeon. And so these cars, it's going to be an easy flat out section of corners, and using all of the track there, actually lifting up the front wheels off of the ground as he hits the curb onto the exit of that flying section, and then that all just runs straight onto the Kemmel Straight. So it's not until you reach turn 7 you're hitting the brakes again, and now he's massively on the brakes. You can see there 32.6 straight away into the first sector. So pretty good so far opening lap time. The only person behind him that is beating it is Nicholas Gratero with a 32.5. So it is a very, very close quarters at the moment here at Spa-Francorchamps in the hypercars. And you can see still trying to get a little bit of tire temp up because he's really on the edge of the car and he's trying to get himself all squared up for the next lot of corners. And looking at the time is at the moment is still Gutero is the only driver to have beaten that first sector of a 32.65 with his 32.55. So all the other drivers are doing in the 32.6s to the low 33s in that first sector. So maybe a little bit of a difference in aero setup, and some drivers may be looking for a middle sector where they've put on a bit more aero onto the car to really be able to nail that middle sector. And now the middle sector has now come to us. It's a 55.5 for the middle sector. So has anyone behind him beat him on at the time? Is Nicholas Gutero is absolutely smashing it. And there you go. He's just gone by as well. So there has definitely been a big change in pace here. Gutero was your fastest driver in the practice session. So what lap time is he now going to jump on board with? You can see the guy we were riding on board with of Harry Lawrence ended up just getting out of it a little bit. And you can see his sector times now 32.5. 54.3, and as he closes out the lap, we're in the 2-minute twos by the time that we got to the end of the practice session, and that is going to be a very good opening lap for Nicholas Gutero of a 2-minute flat. So absolutely nailing it at the moment as we now take a look here at the hypercar lap times as they now come flying through. So it is Gutero leading the way ahead of Lando Latiano as well. So now that's over by 1.5 seconds. So expect that gap to maybe come down just a little bit as they get used to it. But unfortunately, with the sheer size of this circuit that it is, there's not going to be a lot of time for them to try and get laps in. And you can see in the background, the driver that we were watching just before, Harry Lawrence, is trying to go once more for a lap time. And that lap time at the moment is still looking pretty good. He's near identical to what he did in the first sector previously. But here is Christian Gennaro, because he's just set in his fastest lap time for the LMP2 class, and you can see he's also got about half a second buffer in this qualifying session at the moment ahead of Paul Russell. So Russell was a driver that came into strife just a little bit in Silverstone. Unfortunately for himself, he did pick up a penalty for causing a collision on the opening lap. We saw a lot of carnage happening in that opening few laps of Silverstone as all the drivers were trying to make their way through the field, especially those who were a little bit further behind than where they probably should have been at the moment. And one thing I will take note of as well, if the cars do look a little bit funny, that is just because with the sheer number of drivers that we've got into this lobby, we're currently capped at about 34 drivers, I reckon it is, in the lobby. That does mean, unfortunately, that the internet connection to the server is not at its world's best, so there may be a little bit of a lag spike here and there with the vehicles doing some funny things, but that is all okay. It is nothing too major. As now Nicholas Gutero, here he comes to round out his second lap. Is he going to improve on his 2 minutes 7.6? No, he doesn't, and he comes into the lane as well, so that may be session done for himself, because I don't think with only 3.5 minutes left there would be enough time for him to be able to go around and start another one before the 10-minute timer has clicked over for the start of the LM GT3 class. But here is Eric Chandra, because unfortunately for himself, he had a bit of a mare in Silverstone, falling all the way down the order right at the start of the race, but he is looking to try and get himself back up the field once again. Currently sitting in second position, only 4/10 away from the pole position. As you can see, lap times now coming in as well, with Donnelly jumping ahead of Fraser and Latano as well. So let's see how this lap comes along, because I reckon it was just an outlap that is completed, because he hasn't. Oh, and that was a big one on the exit of the bus stop chicane. He's gathered it up very nicely though, so look out for himself to try and do another lap here. A bit of a lockup as well, just for good measure, and he's tucked up right behind an LMP2 car, so that is not going to be very ideal for himself. heading into this next lot of corners, and you can see now having to pull out of the slipstream, so that may just give him a little bit of an edge here, the slipstream that is, but unfortunately I reckon a lot got lost on the exit of the bus stop, and then that little lockup going to La Source as well probably has cost him just a little bit too much than he would have wanted. But let's have a look to see what his first sector time comes to as they head into the braking zone now. Yeah, you can see 3/10 away in the first sector alone, so he's got a lot of time to find if he wants to try and eclipse that nearly half a second he needs to Gotterero as well. So a lot of work needed for Eric Chandra, and unfortunately with 2 minutes left on the clock, I don't think he's going to have enough time to be able to set another quick lap for himself here. And let's just have a look to see what's going on, because I've noticed actually Gutero is now on a outlap as well, so he is looking to try and get himself another lap time here in qualifying with only 1 minute and 40 left of the LMP2 and hypercar class qualifying session. I reckon Eric here has now called it quits. So who is currently on a lap? It looks like Christian Ganeri here is on a pretty good lap. You can see that nearly identical in the first sector. He's only 400ths away in the first sector. How does his middle sector compare to what he has done so far to get the LMP2 pole? And it is over 4 seconds away, so I'm going to say he's backed out of this one, and he might go for another one here, just getting out the way of the traffic. But we'll have to see how this one all plays out in only 11 minutes time, because in 11 minutes time it will be the checkered flag, and we will also have in a few seconds time that we'll have the LMGT3 cars coming out as well. We should be seeing a few of them actually now starting to line up into the lane, and here we go. Greg Brock is the first one to start lining up in the pit lane for the LMGT3 cars, so he will be in for an absolute ripper of a lap coming up shortly in his Lexus LMGT3 car. So lining up at the end of the lane, we've got cars still going around but trying to go for a lap in. Here we go, Nicholas Gutero now going for another fast lap here in his Alpine hypercar. What sort of lap time is this going to be? We're coming up to the end of the first sector, and how is this going to stand? And it has gone purple. He's improved on the first sector. That's a very good effort to improve on the first sector, because it's realistically just the braking zone into La Source, and the rest of it is just about how good you can be on the exit of that opening corner, because it's all just flat out to then. So it is just a game of getting the turn one right, and that is your sector one all completed. And let's see now what he can do in this middle sector, because he has been absolutely rapid in the middle sector. He's faster than anyone else by a country mile in the middle sector, which just shows the commitment that he's able to get. We have now gone under 10 minutes or so. We're going to be seeing a few of the LMGT3 cars now on the circuit, and here we go. Here's a flood of them now coming out of the lane. Greg Brock, Harris Smiles as well out on the circuit. Lachlan Andrew is also out there as well. So all of these guys now looking to try and get themselves a good lap in here, but we still got the hypercars out trying to finish a lap here. And look at this, Gutero once more purple in the middle sector. He's already got it by half a second. Is he going to be able to improve it to over half a second? Because at the moment he's improved by 300ths and then nearly another 400ths further in the second sector. So an excellent lap here from the Alpine driver. So all he's got to do now is just navigate the bus stop chicane. A little bit of a puff of smoke there from a lockup. How well is this one going to play out for himself? All looks relatively okay for the moment. The run to the line. And is it an improvement? It is an improvement, and it is by only 0.008 of a second. So the finest margins of improvement for Gutero, and that is going to call it quits for the hypercar and LMP2 qualifying session. It's Gutero on pole by 0.3 of a second, but it looks like he is on another lap as well, and he is also not too far away from eclipsing his previous best lap time. How is this going to do? Is this going to be another improvement? And how was it? It is another improvement, and that stretches his pole position out to another 0.6 of a second. And Paul Russell already in the lane. He's got nothing to answer for that one. So let's now take a look at the LMGT3 cars, because it is now time to have these guys hit the tarmac for the time now. And indeed, it is 3 Alpine poles in a row now so far this season. They have definitely got the 1 lap pace on the rest of the field at the moment. But when it came to the race pace, it has not been that case at the moment, because Eric Chandra was, Mohamed Colombo was able to get the win last time around. at Silverstone. So let's also jump on board with a lap here of the LMGT3 car, and let's take a look at the difference between the cars, because there is quite a bit of a difference between these cars with how much you can see, and the way these cars behave. It's very much the same for the first sector. It's all going to be slight, or actually a bit of a lift there as well in the Discord beforehand. Some of the drivers were complaining about the little bit of a physics maybe issue in the game, which meant that these cars weren't very comfortable going flat out through there. In other simulators, it is 100% flat out in a GT3 car going through here. So that is just showing something that the confidence is probably not quite there yet in these cars around here. So let's see what sort of lap time we can get from Greg Brock here in the Lexus, and it's a 38.4. Has anyone been able to eclipse that? Yes, Lachlan Andrews directly behind him has actually been able to do that. He's done a 38.2. So, and then Alex Tonkin a 37.8. So Alex Tonkin, watch for him to put in an absolute flyer of a lap. You can see in the background in the mirror as well, someone's kicked up a bit of dust on the exit of the Bruxelles section of the circuit. So that was turn 11, and we saw the dust plume come up as well. So riding up for the rest of this lap as well. So coming up now to the timing line for the second sector, which is just going to be in a few corners time. So in between turns 15 and 16 we'll see it. So he'll round this next right hander, and then we should get ourselves another split here, and then we can kind of see where the pace is lying between all the LMGT3 drivers. So he's done a 63.3 in the middle sector. What is going to happen up behind him? It's a 63.4 for Lachlan Andrews. It's a 63.6 for Alex Tonkin. So he's lost a little bit of time in the middle sector. It's a 63 flat from Jonathan Eaton. So plenty of time, and in the first sector he's also been able to do a 38.1, so he is on for an absolute lap as well. But so far the fastest in the first sector is still Alex Tonkin, at least in the first sector. Where does Jonathan Eaton line up as well in the middle sector? Because he's now done a 63 flat, so he could be on here to eclipse what Greg Brock does, and Greg Brock will cross the line with a 2-minute 21.6. and so that was some pretty good driving there from Greg to get himself a pretty decent bank lap on the boards at the moment. And so we'll have to have a see on how that one goes ahead for himself. And now taking a look here at the standings. So it was Jonathan Eaton that I said was going to be on an absolute lap, and that is exactly the case in the Aston advantage as well. So he has gone to the top by 0.2 of a second ahead of Lachlan Andrews. Alex Tonkin has gone to third, and Greg Brock, the driver that we were on board with, has now dropped down to fourth position, and he has got a gap of about 0.6 of a second that he needs to find if he wants to try and get himself a pole position here. And the other Brock of Jared Brock is also now currently sitting in sixth position with the banker lap, putting him 5 and a bit seconds behind. But here's Jonathan Eaton now. He's eclipsing his previous lap time as well. So the purple in the first sector, how is this one going to line up for himself? Because now he's got the really lengthy middle sector of the circuit to navigate, and it is going to be very interesting to see if he's able to back it up, because this first sector 400s away, so that seems to be kind of a bit of a trend. We saw in both LMP2 and the hypercar class, 400s of a second was about the improvement that you're able to make in each sector. So there might just be something about all of these drivers going absolutely balls to the wall for the first out lap, or the first banker lap that they're able to do, because we saw good improvements throughout the session, but they were tiny little micro improvements. So it wasn't that someone was able to find a massive amount of time just randomly somewhere. As now Nick Hill in his Porsche has been able to plop it into second. He's now closed that gap between the two front runners by less than 0.2 of a second, and he has only got a gap of 700ths behind him to Lachlan Andrews, and then only a further 200s to Alex Tonkin. So it's a very, very close quarters between your top four here in qualifying. How's the middle sector for Jonathan Eaton? And look at that, it's only an improvement by 0.002 of a second. So it looks like there may be an improvement here. And it actually, Harry Smiles has now just gone to the top of the session by 900ths of a second in the BMW. So he was on an absolute flyer as well, and now pops himself up onto a provisional pole position with 3 minutes left of the session. How is Jonathan Eaton going to go with this one? Because you can see now he has got some time to find, because now Greg Brock has just gone to the top with a 2-minute 20.1, and now the gap for pole position is over 0.6, now 0.2 of a second, because Alex Tonkin's just put in a lap. Jonathan Eaton goes to third, so the driver that was looking on form now finds himself down in third, half a second away. And it's Greg Brock who's on an absolute fly, and I'm going to say popping it back into the pit lane. That was a bit intense, that one. But Alex Tonkin now in second position now as this one going to fare through here. And you can see the car's getting so light going over the top of Eau Rouge. And that is going to be very, very interesting to see how the car handles on that one. Eau Rouge and Radeon, that was that the car looked a little bit dicey going through there, but look at the improvement in the first sector. It is nearly 3/10 that he has got up on the rest of the field going through that first sector, and that, in just his first sector alone, has got enough of a gap to be able to eclipse Greg Brock, who is currently still in the lane. Just double checking that he's in the lane. He is still in the pit lane, so he has running out of time to go out for one final hot lap if he really wanted to, with only 1 minute and 45 seconds left on the clock. So let's take a look to see how this lap ends out for Alex Tonkin here, because there is only a couple of other drivers on the circuit at the moment who are looking like they've got sector times that could try and really beat anything that is going on here at the moment. Jonathan Eaton is just on a lap as well at the moment, but he's 3/10 down in the first sector, so he's going to need a big and middle and final sector if he wants to try and get himself a pole position here and take it away from Greg Brock in that Lexus. And so what's the middle sector like? Oh, he's a 10th down now into the middle sector and dipped a wheel into the gravel trap. So there may be a little bit of something that is needed now for himself to try and get the pole position that he wants. And now Harry Smiles has just put himself now up into third position and has eclipsed Jonathan Eaton by only 9 thousandths of a second. So the gaps between some of these drives is absolutely the barest of barest margins, but now only a corner left to go for Alex Tonkin. How is this lap going to go for himself in the Lamborghini? He crosses the line, and is this going to be a improvement? It is a improvement to pole position by 6/10 of a second. Greg Brock can't do anything about it. He's in the pit lane. What's Jonathan Eaton got for this lap? He hasn't been able to do much. He's got himself up into third position and finds himself 300ths away from getting onto the front row of the grid for LMGT3 class. But with only a few seconds left on the clock, is anyone else out on a lap time? Here we go. Harry Smiles, purple in the first sector, and now is just going through the second sector as we speak. How is this one going to play out? Currently finds himself in 5th, but this first sector has been absolutely mega to find an entire 10th over the top of who you're trying to eclipse in the timings. And you can see as well, he's only got 300ths of a second to find if he wants to get himself up into 4th position ahead of Lachlan Andrews. So he needs a clean lap here, and it will at least put him up now into a 4th position. But it all depends on the middle sector, because that's going to be the most difficult one. And he is also the only driver on the circuit as it stands at the moment. So all eyes are on him to be able to try and get this a lap time in. So now he's only got one corner before we find out what the middle sector is going to be. How is this one going to land? And he's 6/10 away in the middle sector. So I'm going to say this lap is pretty much done unless he's able to find something in the final sector. But it looks like P5 is what it is for Harry Smiles. Unfortunately not able to really improve too much here in this final flying lap. We'll see how he goes though, because he may be able to pull out some sort of miracle in the final sector. He's only got the bus stop chicane left to navigate, and he is got one more corner now, and then it's a run to the line of a couple of 100 meters. How is this one going to do? Using all of the track on the exit, and he will now cross the line. And it was a purple final sector, and it puts him up into 2nd position. So that was a massive middle sector from Harry Smiles to be able to do a lap time like that. So the pole position goes to Alex Tonkin by 4/10, nearly half a second ahead of Harry Smiles. So we just watched the lap. Greg Brock and Jonathan Eaton rounds out your top 4, and that was a very, very intense qualifying. So we're going to go for a ad break, and then we will be back for our first race here at Spa-Francorchamps. It's a 1-hour sprint race, and it is going to be pretty good too, because it's going to be the first day to night race of the season. So let's go at it, and we'll be back in a jiffy.
Motorsport isn't just a hobby, it's a lifestyle. And when performance matters, you need gear you can trust. That's where ARD Importing comes in. ARD Importing brings world-class racing brands straight to New Zealand, supplying real racers, real teams, and real enthusiasts with proven performance products around the globe. We're talking JRP racing components, Zamp helmets and safety gear you can rely on the track, Red Cat Racing for high-performance RC action, and intimate brake pads for serious stopping power when it counts most. Keep your engine protected with renewable lubricants, premium oils designed for extreme performance and durability. Turn up the volume with wicked audio, delivering powerful sound whenever the road or track takes you. And gear up with Spartan products built for durability, comfort, and race day durability. Whether you're racing dirt, asphalt, or chasing lap times from home, ARD Importing has you covered. Sim racers as well, listen up, ladies and gentlemen, because ARD New Zealand is your importing source for all of Camus Racing sim gear. Precision wheels, professional grade pedals, immersive feedback that puts you right in the driver's seat. Train harder, race smarter, and feel every corner. From real-world racing to the virtual grid, ardimporting.co.New Zealand connects you with elite brands trusted by racers worldwide.
Welcome back, and you can see the starting order is now running on the screen because we're not too far away from a race start. So it's Nicholas Guterres on the pole position ahead of Eric Chandra. So Guterres was the only driver to get himself inside the 2-minute flat mark for this one. So he has got a absolute lead. Then it's Chris Donnelly, Chris Fraser, Ricky Packham, Nando Latano as well, Ricky Affiat, Steve Lewis, Sahan Fernando, Lee Perkins, Hayden Marsh, Robert Mitchell, and Harry Lawrence rounds out your grid for that is the hypercar class. And then for your LMP2 cars, it is the Christian Gennaro on the pole position ahead of Paul Russell, then Ben Vittner as well, Tom Jones, Phil Rando, Sam Austin, Matthew Marsh, and Matt Frost round out the LMP2 field here for Spa. And it is going to be quite a race between that lot as well. That was a very close qualifying session between those guys. And for your GT3 class, it was Alex Tonkin who took a beautiful pole position. And it was a fantastic lap time from himself as well, and it was a good lap as well because it was the first time we have not seen Tyson Robbs on the pole position ahead of Harry Smiles, Greg Brock, Jonathan Eaton, Lachlan Andrews, Nick Hill, and then it is Lloyd in 7th position, but he lines up in the 28th position, Ben Collins, Martin Glastonbury as well, and then Jose as well, Jared Brock, Tyson Robbs lining up further behind as well. If he's actually going to race though, I'm not too sure at the moment. He's being listed as 12th and 33rd on the road, so let's see how this one goes ahead. But we are getting ready now for a race start in this race for Spa, so let's see how this one can go. So it is going to be Guterres versus Chandra on the front row of the grid. You've got 1 hour coming up shortly. It is going to be a day tonight, so we're starting in the day. We're going to see the checkered flag when it hits nighttime, so we're going to be seeing the headlights cross the finish line before we see the actual cars. So it is going to be a very, very intense racing coming up very shortly as well, so stay with us because it is getting real. We've only got the bus stop chicane now as well. So let's go for some racing here. We're not too far away from the green flag. Gutero, Chandra, front row hypercar, Granero, Russell, front row LMP2, and Tonkin and Smiles, front row for the LMGT3 cars. So let's go for 1 hour here around motorsport perfection. That is Spa-Francorchamps, and it is going to be a very interesting turn one of the tightest corners on the circuit. And let's see how this one fares between all of the drivers. And it is go for the start here, and it looks like a pretty good start here, but Chandra's looking around the outside, and is he going to be able to hold it? No, he can't get it done, because it is going to be Gutero who holds the lead going through the first lot of corners, but behind, look at this, and Chris Fraser, he's got a pretty good run in his Porsche, and so he is looking to try and see if he can't maybe steal a cheeky P2 here, and all the cars already going single file, trying to get a really good run here between all of the cars, but it looks like they have already found themselves a nice piece of real estate, because you don't want to be going too wide going into this middle sector, because that can only sometimes cause some issues. So that is going to be something to keep an eye on. You can see in the background, it actually looks like there is a little bit of battling going on with one driver that has been so rapid so far this series of Affiat as well. So he is looking to try and get himself a good move here, but behind it looks like Harry Lawrence is going for a move here, going down the inside, and that puts himself now up into P9, and taking a look now at the LMP2 cars, because here they are right on the tail of the hypercar field. And it is indeed Christian Gennaro still leading the way of the LMP2 cars as they head through the middle sector, and Harry Smiles has taken the lead in the LMGT3 class. So it was not a good opening section of corners for your pole sitter of Alex Tonkin. So he is going to be absolutely filthy with himself to throw away that pole position effectively before the end of the first lap. So he now finds himself in a 4th position. Here he is, the Lamborghini in the background. It looks like we may have had a little bit of an incident with one of the LMP2 cars, because they're now trying to find their way through the field here of the LMGT3 cars. So hopefully they can be all navigated pretty easily and without any issues. You can see some brake lockups of people going off a little bit wide as well, and picking up a little bit of gravel back towards the front, because the battle is heating up at the front between the hypercars, because look at the gap. It is now closed massively up, because Gutero was able to pull out a little bit of a lead on the opening lap, and then look at that. That has been absolutely wheeled back in, and going wide like that is not going to help at all either. So it is going to be very interesting to see how this battle plays out, and it's all for the lead of the race as well, not only in the hypercar class, but for the overall standings as well. And look at the cars getting so unweighted going across the top there of the corners. So very high speed sections of the track as well, and with the slipstream, Chandra's not really able to close up too much. He was able to close maybe about 0.2 of a second, because going through Radion and Eau Rouge, the gap was about 0.6 of a second. Now it's just fallen under half a second, and going out wide like that, that's not the way you want to do things, Eric. That is just going to cost you a heap of time, and now the gap has gone out to nearly 0.7 of a second, back down to half a second. So you need to drive it cleanly here if you're going to be able to make the lap time, and once you make one mistake, it is very easy to make multiple. But just behind as well, look at this train starting to form behind now. This is Chris Fraser in the Porsche. He's got a train with Lozano and Chris Donnelly as well, and Packham. So this is going to be a very interesting one to see how this one is going to play out as well. So let's keep an eye on this battle, because you can see the trail of cars is actually just ever growing as well between this a lot. So let's keep an eye on this one to see how this one all plays out. And out in the front for the LMGT3 class, you have got Harry Smiles here, but he has got Greg Brock now all over the back in the Repsol Lexus RC. So this is going to be a very interesting battle between these two. Very different fundamentally built cars as well. So the BMW runs a turbo straight 6 engine with 590 horsepower, but the Lexus runs a naturally aspirated V8, so it's big, grunty, and sounds absolutely wicked. But you can see that it's now very quickly turned into a 3-car battle, because it is now Nick Hill in the Porsche that is also got up to the back of the battle for the lead, and look at the gap they've already pulled on Alex Tonkin as well. So this is going to be a very interesting to see how this one plays out, because none of these drivers have actually taken a race win as of yet, and I now can confirm that Tyson Robs, the driver who has claimed 2 pole positions and the 2 race wins so far this season, and is also leading the way in the LMGT3 class, is not present for tonight's race. So this is going to be a very big race for these guys, because the guy who's been dominating it is not here. So this is kind of a little bit of a free kick for them to try and get a little bit further ahead in the championship if they please. But they have to make sure that they do it all cleanly, because battling between each other is not going to do them any favors, and it's only going to ever cost them more time between the lot of them. And the gap out in front for that is the hypercar class, as you can see that the Porsche got very out sideways. It looked very unstable going through there. Nicholas Gutierrez here has pulled out, it was just before, over a second to Eric Chandra. So we're going to have to see how this battle plays out by Eric here, not letting him go off into the distance like we've seen in previous races, like we saw in Silverstone, where he kind of just took the lead and was able to drive away until Mohamed Colombo had something to say about that one. So let's keep an eye on this battle and see how these guys can battle it out and try and get themselves further ahead. But here we go. Here's Chris Donnelly. He's called on to the back of Nando here. So it's Peugeot versus BMW. How is this one going to play out? It looks like there's a pretty good run here, but he thinks better of it and doesn't go for the overtake. So he's now going to try and see if he can't set up an overtake. You can see going for a slightly wider line going through the bus stop chicane, and that's going to open up the final part of the corner to allow him to get onto the throttle quicker and see if he can't shape up a move going down here. But he might be, considering how close he is, trying to see if he can't shape up a move into the next braking zone of turn 7, because he's now got a big, long, nice front straightaway to try and get himself a bit of slipstream and see if he can't get himself the overspeed needed to get up the inside or the outside where he pleases to try and make the overtake. But you can see the car looking a little bit unstable heading through there, a bit of a tail wag going through. So the car's still looking pretty nervous. So they're on the most fuel load that we would have seen so far in tonight's stream as well. And behind is that a overtake that we're seeing as well. It's the Ferrari on the BMW and still trying to make the move done. Is he going to show the nose? He still shows the nose, but it gets chopped off by Harry Lawrence and dust flying in the air as well. So one of the bullets has been taken out, and who's that? That's Nando in the Peugeot. He has been off the circuit and now falls down outside of the top 10, and now is last in the hypercars. So that has been absolutely terrible for himself, and I'm not sure how that one transpired, because he was tucked up right behind Chris Fraser, or Chris Donnelly, I think it was. So that is going to be one to get looked at as well, I'm sure of it, and there's going to be a little bit more to that story as well. But back to this battle, because now it's a Ricky Packham who's on the back of Chris Donnelly. So Donnelly looking like he's just starting to create a little bit of a train behind him. You can see in the back of the shot all the cars are starting to claim a little bit closer in that one as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how this one plays out and what kind of games they play with the strategy as well, especially with the changing track conditions, because also the track's going to lose a bit of track temperature in it when it comes to the nighttime running, which will be not too far away. You can see the shadows getting longer, especially here in the braking zone. But here's a battle for the race lead now, because Wittner has caught up to the back of Granero. So Granero in the LMP2 class, he hasn't really looked like he's ever really been too challenged so far this season. He's been able to take, off the top of my head, it's been both the pole positions and both the race wins as well. So very much in another field of Tyson Robs. And is that another issue there for Nando? And it is another issue for Nando. So he's had an issue, and along with Lee Perkins as well, who's had to take to the shortcut. So something has gone amiss here, and they have continued once more, but now unfortunately for both these drivers, they've got to get through some of the LMP2 cars as well. So that is going to be a bit of a tricky situation to be a part of, because these LMP2 cars, they're not massively off the pace of the hypercars around this circuit. So let's keep an eye on that one. And we've now got Ben Collins. He's caught up to the back of Lloyd in the McLaren, and Collins in that Lexus RC. So Now, this is also going to be another one to watch. So this is battling it out on the racetrack for a top 6 position. So let's have a watch along and for a little bit to see how this one plays out, because these cars do have strengths and weaknesses in certain parts of the circuit. So watching these two guys battle it out, we might be able to see where maybe Collins is a bit better, where maybe Lloyd is a bit better. But you can see Lloyd is now caught up to the back of Jonathan Eaton in the Aston Martin that he is driving. So we've got another bit of a train forming up. A few trains are currently forming up around the circuit, so that just kind of shows that the cars are very evenly matched around here, and even the power of slipstream isn't doing a massive amount for these drivers to try and help them get their way through on trying to get themselves an overtake and further their position. And here we go. So Ricky Packham, he's got a bit of a run now going onto the back of Chris Donnelly. Is there going to be an overtake? Looking for the bus stop chicane. No, he breaks earlier and is looking to try and see if he can't shape up and move. Bit of a lock up from Donnelly as well for the good measure, but it's BMW versus BMW. And for a second I thought that was Chris going into the lane, but I reckon that was just a lag spike of what I mentioned before, with there being so many drivers in the lobby. It is causing a little bit of a mishap for myself in the comm box, so just bear with it if every now and again we see something a little bit like that just happening up behind. There's quite the train forming up as well, because you've got Steve Lewis now with Harry Lawrence and Affiat as well in the Ferrari right behind. So this is going to be a very interesting battle. It's Porsche versus BMW versus Ferrari, so 3 manufacturers in this battle, and up ahead you can see it's 2 BMWs and another Porsche as well. So we've got a pretty good spread of the manufacturers here inside the top 10 of the hypercar class, and it is going to be very good to see how this all plays out. But back to the front of the LMG GT3, because the gap kind of extended out just a little bit here. And now Greg Brock has been able to crawl that gap back down on Harry Smiles. So the gap was going out to nearly a second-ish between the two. But look at this, it's now only 0.3 of a second. So this is going to be very, very interesting to see how this one also plays out, because we have got Greg Brock, who in Imola was on for a good result, unfortunately got a penalty, and then was also not on a very good day in Silverstone. So this is a very much where we like to see Greggy here, and that is up the front of the field. But massive tank slapper on the direction change of the bus stop chicane, and look at that, that has put the gap now back out to nearly a second, 9/10 that is now between first and second. So all it takes is a little mistake like that, and your shot for trying to go for the race lead is absolutely thrown out of the door. But here is something that I have just picked up on. So Eric Chandra is on a really good lap here, because Nicholas Guerrero had a lead of 2 seconds. That lead is now only about 1.5, so something's happened here for Guerrero to lose all of that time, and the gap is now slowly eking back out towards that 2 seconds mark, but it's now kind of actually hovering around about the 1 second mark. So that was a big loss of time there for your race leader in the hypercar class. So there may be a little bit more to that story as well, but now looking here at Martin Glastonbury, because he is all over the back of Tyson Rops. So Tyson Rops actually has made it out onto the circuit. Sorry, I've missed that one. So maybe a pit lane start for himself there, and trying to look up the inside of your championship leader, not able to get it done. But what is Tyson here going to be able to do? Because if he did start from the pit lane, he's made up fantastic time to be able to get himself from about 35th position now up to 29th. So he has done it not too bad. So let's keep an eye on Tyson here and see how he does trying to get himself through the field. But he's going to have a big chunk of time to find up next, and look at that, he's just able to find the time where other people are not able to find it. And here come your race leaders now in the hypercar class, rounding those guys up as well. So that was Nicholas Guerrero going around, and Eric Chandra is now sitting just behind, and unfortunately for himself, that is going to be a big loss in time, because now look at that, the gap now 2.5 seconds. Is it going to reach out to 3 seconds, because he caught them at just the wrong time? But Tyson Robbs does get himself now up ahead of Hosser. So he's now got 13 seconds to find if he wants to get up to the back of Ben Collins in at 27th position. So just a few corners ahead, but that's just how large this circuit is. A few corners ahead is, you know, like 10 to 15 seconds. So that is going to be a big task for Tyson Robbs to get done. But we saw from Silverstone with the strategy that was being played, it is very much possible for him to get that gap back down, and especially considering we've still got 45 minutes left of this race. We're barely the three-quarter race distance, and already so much has happened so far in this race. And here's your gap for the race lead here in LMP2. LMP2's been pretty quiet at the moment. They've all kind of spaced out a little bit because I reckon there was a bit of an incident on the opening lap which resulted in a few of them falling behind the LMGT3 cars, and so since doing that, they've kind of spread out a little bit. But Christian Guerrero is still your race leader, but he's still got Vintner right behind him, trying to keep him a company and try to make him not fall off the 8-ball just a little bit too much. He can't get too relaxed, or otherwise he will have another LMP2 car right there to try and get themselves up the inside. But once again, we've got another battle here, and once more it's got Chris Donnelly in it as well, but this time he is on the attack rather than having someone coming up behind him. And look at this battle go all the way over, as now this is going to be awkward battling as well, because they're trying to go past some of the LMG 3 cars, but behind. I'll have a look at this battle that's going on, because you saw them going super defensive in the background, and it is still going on between Steve Lewis and the Ferrari as well. So blue flags are waving, and down the inside now. Oh, that got a little bit close there from Harry Lawrence. You just saw it in the bottom of his shot. He had the rears all locked up, yet crossed up, trying to get himself past. That is at the LMGT3 car. Now you've got another one off into the gravel. It is all kicking off because they've all caught each other, a really tricky part of the circuit. And all of this as well has, look at this, it has brought Tyson Robbs back into this, because he was 13 seconds away. He is now only 2 seconds away. So he has brought in a massive amount of time as well. I think I've actually possibly misread the timings there, because even if something happened, that is a massive amount of time that he's managed to catch up. So he is absolutely on it at the moment, and he's got his eyes set in front of me. He's got the next 3 cars right behind him, and look at that, there's one of the hype cars right behind, still trying to get by, but thankfully not going for anything too audacious that could cause a issue further up the line. More dust getting flicked up as they battle up ahead. So Tyson Robbs definitely has got his eyes set now for Jonathan Eaton, Lloyd and Collins right in front of him, and that is going to be, if he can get the 3 of them done, that's going to be himself now up into 25th position. So there is still plenty to play for Tyson here in this race for himself here. So let's keep an eye on how this one plays out. And you can see how much he's able to catch up just in the braking zone alone, because he's now right on the tail of these guys. How is this one going to play out? And look at that, this LMGT3 field is really closing up very quickly now, because not too far up the road, it's only about a second up the road now from Eaton. You've got Tonkin and Nick Hill as well. So you've got 5, 6 cars now all within one camera shot, and look at that, here they all are. So this is very much heating up very quickly as well in this series. And look at that, Tyson Robbs now all over the back of Lloyd there in that McLaren, and there's a bit of tire smoke, and that is because we have had a spinner, and there is a big crash happening behind. Who was that has had the incident? It looks like Ben Collins is in the wall, and who else is in the wall with him? We're trying to work out who that is that's also in the wall, and look at the damage on the car. It looks like that car is done for, unfortunately, for Ben Collins, and so that is very unfortunate for himself. And there was another car involved, and I reckon it was one of the Porsches. I wasn't quite able to catch which car it was, and it's Nick Hill actually. And he's just been able to get it out of the wall, so probably trying to find a gear or two, and he's now trying to work out how much damage is on his car. We saw him facing the wrong way in the middle circuit, and look at that, the car's crabbing, so I reckon his day is done, and he comes to a stop on the side of the circuit. So unfortunately, in the span of just a couple of seconds, we've now lost 2 cars into the LMGT3 class. But back to Tyson Robbs though, because he's all over the back of Lloyd still in the McLaren, and Robbs in the Mercedes AMG. So let's see how this one plays out. And Eaton, he's going for a move on Tonkin. How is this one going to play out? They're side by side through the S's, and now to the outside goes Eaton. Is he going to be able to hold on to it? No, he can't make that move stick, and so now this has really closed up the 4 of them. Tyson Robbs now looking to try and go up the inside, gets that move done with conviction. So a very excellent overtake there from Tyson. How is this one going to play out though in front? Because it looks like Eaton was able to throw a bit of a dummy move, or not a dummy move, sorry, but he was able to throw a very far-fetched overtake, to say so the least. It's not usually a overtaking opportunity in these cars, but now with trying to go around the outside of Tonkin has now left him, unfortunately, under attack to lose his 24th position on the road. Fourth in class though. Rob's so late on the brakes, and Tonkin's also had an incident because now look at this. Rob, he's going to get two of them here if he's able to get the exit. He can't get the exit though, so something has happened to Tonkin because he's now lost a further couple of positions. He's back down to fifth, but how is this going to play out for Tyson here, because he is currently fourth on the road, so he's done a fantastic job to get himself back further towards the pointy end of this LMGT3 class. And you can see a couple of guys already in the pit lane to make a pit stop here very early on in the race. This is as well, so we're going to have to see how this one goes ahead, and it's currently Fernando who's in the lane as well, so it is a very early pit stop for himself, but he's also already a lap down, so it's probably a unplanned pit stop unfortunately for himself. And here we go. Here's a Tyson Robs. He's now side by side with Eaton. Is this move going to get done now? Heading into Lacombe's, and it will get done. So he now finds himself onto the podium in the LMGT3 class. So very good overtake for himself. He's done fantastic work to get himself from last in the LMGT3. He's now up onto a podium position, but he's now got 13 seconds to get to Greg Brock, who is still trying to get to the back of Harry Smiles. We saw him try and get really close, but he had that incident of that tank slap going through the bus stop chicane, and unfortunately for himself lost a heap of time. He hasn't really been able to gain too much of that back, and still sits in second behind Smiles. Let's do a bit of a check to see how your leaders are going. So Gutierrez here still leads the way in the hypercar class, and he is pulling away from Eric Chandra as well by over 3 seconds. So that battle that we saw kind of starting to close up a little bit has gone the opposite way now and spread it out, and the same goes for Christian Gennaro, who's now tucked up behind third place in LMGT3 of Tyson Robb. So Gennaro has now found himself with a 2-second lead over Ben Wittner here. So catching cars like this is also something that can help with the timings of yourself on the circuit as well. So unfortunately, that's just sometimes the way it goes when it's multi-class racing, and these guys try and navigate it to the best of their abilities, and sometimes you just end up losing up just a little bit, and that is the name of the game. But still 2 seconds away, especially after just going through a few of those cars, is still not too bad of a job to navigate those cars as safely as he has just done. So it's going to be, interesting to see how after the pit cycles go, because some drivers here will be looking for overcuts, they'll be looking for undercuts as well. So it's going to be something to have a think about as well. So we're going to have to work out what this whole pit strategy is going to be looking like for the coming up of the races. But except for Silverstone, where we saw the weather playing a role in it, it's so far the name of the game has been late pit stops. That's especially what happened in Imola, with everyone coming into the lane within the last 15-20 minutes of the race. So really leaving it very late to try and get a pit stop done for themselves. There is no compulsory pit stop, but if you can't make it on fuel mileage after the 1 hour race, you can just do the one stop, and it seems like everyone just does a one stop for that one. So let's see how that one goes about. So back to the front though for Nicholas here. So leading the way, the gap has extended once more now to over 3.5 seconds. So catching some of the lap traffic is definitely helping him out here, and now the gap to over 4 seconds to Eric as well. Chris Fraser though, he's 13 seconds further behind, 14 seconds further behind in the Porsche, running in third position. So your top three spread out quite big here, but the closest battle that we've got in the hypercars here is with Harry Lawrence on the back of Chris Donnelly. He's 7/10 behind, and unfortunately for himself, not really in the range of getting... Oh, and something's just happened. That is one of the cars in GT3, and has nearly rolled it as well. Was that Eaton? It wasn't Eaton, but it is one of the other... one of the other Mercedes, and it's Lachlan Andrews that has just gone off. So he had a massive incident there going across the top of Radion and Eau Rouge, and it looks like the car has come out relatively unscathed, surprisingly enough, considering we nearly saw him actually go for a roll. So very unfortunate there for Lachlan Andrews. Finds himself currently 12th in the LMGT3 class, 32nd on the road. So and it looks like he may need to come in for some damage repairs, because he hasn't really got himself back up to a race pace as of yet. So let's see how his race transpires, and he may get a little bit lucky with a incident further ahead on the road and might be able to get himself a position or two to help himself out in his championship run at the moment. But let's take a look back to the front of LMGT3 since we're talking about LMGT3, because Harry Smiles still leads the way ahead of Greg Brock and Tyson Robbs in third, and Robbs has actually now pulled that gap now down to 10 seconds between himself and Brock. So he's definitely got the pace to try and catch up, but he's going to have to try and get a hurry on as well, because we're now down to 35 minutes left in this race, and still with a round of pit stops to go if the drivers do wish to do the pit stop as well. So the shadow's ever getting longer. You can see the shine also getting much brighter on the circuit, because the sun is starting to set quite slowly, but it is starting to set here for the drivers, and that does face another challenge for them as well, which is what it looks like through the windshield, because this is what it currently looks like. The sun's not too low at the moment, but it can't get much lower, especially when we're getting closer to the sunset, and that is only going to be glaring onto them. You can see a little bit of glare already on the front of the cars for the with the tarmac reflecting the light back away from itself, and that's only going to get worse as it hits the windshield. So that is something to keep an eye on in the future as we get closer and further on through the race as well. So definitely something to take a think about. But this battle here for Harry Lawrence hasn't gone away any ways in any shape or form either as well. So it's the two BMWs currently fighting it out, and this is for fourth on the road. And if they don't waste too much time as well, they're only a second and a half away from Chris Fraser, who currently holds third position. There he is at the top of your screen. So if these guys don't battle it out, they may just have the pace as well to try and get themselves a battle going on for third position as well. I mean, currently both of them do have a best race lap time as Chris Fraser. Chris Donnelly so far has done a 2-minute 2.8. Harry Lawrence has done a 2-minute 3 flat as his best race lap as well. And look at this, the gap ever getting closer as well, and a little bit of a lock-up, a little bit of a touch between the two as well for good measure. One of them goes out into the gravel, and unfortunately that's going to put a small end to this battle, but they can't cause each other too much time, because I'm sure Ricky Packham here just saw absolutely everything that just transpired in another BMW here, and is probably licking his lips and rubbing his hands just a little bit here, knowing that if those guys keep battling it out the way they do, he is going to be right there. And he has also brought that gap now between himself and Lawrence to less than a second. So he's definitely going to have eyes forward at the moment, despite the bright red Ferrari right behind him, also within striking distance. If a mistake was to be made, only sitting 2 seconds back is Affiat as well. So it's all to play for in hypercar. They're not wheel-to-wheel racing, but it is a very much a mind game race at the moment, because we're seeing plenty of mistakes between the two. But here is something that has really closed up, and that is the gap between Chandra and Guterres. The gap is now just over a second. So the last time we checked, it was 4 seconds between the two. So either Guterres here has unfortunately caught some lap traffic in a pretty bad spot, or has made a mistake to allow that much time to be made in such small a time period that is. So let's see how this one plays out, because the pole position wasn't set by a massive margin. It really wasn't like we have seen so far, this season, with the poles getting set by in some cases we've seen get it set by over a second, which is absolutely insane pace, and just shows that when a driver is on it, they are absolutely on it as well. So going to be very interesting, and you see just catching the lap traffic in the wrong spot does exactly this, because now Chandra all over the back of your race leader. The gap was over a second. It's now only 2/10, but he's thrown it away by going onto the gravel. What was that? He's now thrown the lead, the gap to the lead back to over a second. So that was a extremely costly mistake. Now considering as well that you have got all of these lap cars in front, all the LMGT3 cars, and he's not going to get past one of them before this bus stop chicane. There's a little bit of contact. He's trying to barge his way through, because he knows how crucial this is going to be, because look at all of the time he's losing. The gap is now out to 2 seconds once again. So the gap was only 2/10 by the time we were exiting the middle sector, and by the time we start the next lap, it's over 2 seconds. So that is how tight this race is going to be, especially with the lap traffic, because some of these areas where the lap traffic is, there really is not a lot you can do with just where you catch them, because you can try and hang it around the outside, but you're going to be on the dirty side of the road, and you're not going to have the grip to be able to pull off the overtake like that. Or it's going to be a case of like what we just saw at the bus stop chicane, where you try and make the move, but unfortunately the car you're trying to get past doesn't quite realize that you're there and closes the door on you. Is this going to be a change for position or looking down to the inside? No, that is a Lloyd that thinks better of it, doesn't do it, trying to put Eaton off and maybe just a little bit there as well by showing the nose and trying to make him look into the mirrors going into the braking zone of the corner as well. So this battle is really starting to close up, and it plays the same way. So for the leaders, well, for anyone really, it can be a case of catch a lap car in the wrong spot and you can either gain or lose a lot of time. It's the same for the LMGT3 cars, even though they're the guys, unfortunately, getting lapped most of the time. If they have to get out of the way for blue flags, they can very easily lose time to either their competitor, and you can either close or extend the gap between the two. And you can see there may be a little bit of miscommunication about what way they were going to go, because Lloyd was kind of shaking side to side trying to figure out what way he wanted to go to allow the LMP2 car through. And so that is going to be a thing to also take note of, and you can see exactly what I mean. Getting out the way of the LMP2 car has now brought himself back in right up to the back of Eaton now. So how is this one going to transpire? You can see the run that he's got. He's going to look to the inside as they now head through Blanchimont. So how is this one going to play out? He's currently got the position, and he does take the position away from Eaton. Is Eaton going to try and get himself back down the inside or so? No, he can't, because they have to get out the way of an LMP2 car, and that is your third place car as well of Chris Fraser in the Porsche getting out the way, and kind of putting a small halt to that battle. And you can see just the sheer amount of traffic that's currently happening at this point in time in the race. So let's ride on board for our lap, shall we? We'll jump on board with Jonathan Eaton here, and let's take on board the sights and the sounds that is of a LMGT3 car with everything going on and everything that is going to be expected of the lot. And how was that for a lap on board with Jonathan Eaton? You can see there the way that the cars are behaving through all of the traffic as well. So very interesting to see the kind of stuff that they have to navigate going through a race like this. And I've just had word from race control as well. The drivers in Hypercar have had their first official warning for the way they are navigating the lap traffic. This time around, it has been done very cleanly for Nicholas Cotero here, but all drivers in Hypercar have been given their first warning about the racing conduct that they have been showing for their lap traffic awareness. And you can see just how quickly this can all change. We kind of need two eyes at the same spot, because I'm looking at the timing here. Tyson Robbs, he's caught up to the back of Greg Brock as well, but we've got a battle for the overall race lead here in the Hypercar as well, because this has been the real story of the race, because this is one of those circuits where you're just going to lose so much time if you catch the traffic at the wrong point in time. And that's exactly what's happened here for Nicholas, unfortunately, and that's allowed Eric here to get himself right back up to the back of himself, and is now pretty much a nose to tail with the Alpine. And they've got a LMP2 car sitting just ahead there, and there's a yellow flag also just quickly waving momentarily in front. So I reckon someone's had a small off or gone wide at the first corner. Unfortunately, maybe dipped a wheel into the gravel, but yeah, the gap has really come back up. But this is the battle in LMGT3. So Tyson Robbs now looking to get himself ahead of Greg Brock, and now up into second position. This is going to be on the road, so not bad, despite starting what I'm going to say is in the pit lane for himself. So wasn't able to get himself a pole position, but now finds looking himself to get himself up into P2. Around the outside, he's going to have to go for the final part of the bus stop chicane. Can't get it done, all sideways on the exit, because he gets kind of shoved out wide by Greg Brock, and it is going to be have to get done all over again. But I am sure that it is going to be absolutely on. Rob has been able to show that he definitely has the pace to go from where he started to now up in third position, and is showing the pace that he can make this overtake stick. It's only going to be a matter of time that he gets himself by, and you can see there a car actually exiting the pit lane. So that was Harry Lawrence, I believe it is, on leaving the pit lane. So the first, sorry, it wasn't. It was actually one of the LMP2 cars, but Harry Lawrence is currently exiting the pit lane. So it looks like the pit stops may be starting with now 23 minutes left on the clock. And how is this one going to play out? Because they're going side by side now through here, and this is going to be absolutely terrible for that LMP2 car right behind, because he's not going to have anywhere to go. Rob now gets himself up into second position, and the LMP2 car doesn't quite go for the overtake to get himself by this time around, but I'm sure it's only going to be in a quick jiffy around the next corner. He'll probably have to wait before he can just put foot to the floor and drive on by, and there he goes. That is the LMP2 car now ahead of the LMP3 car, and once again the lap cars have played absolute havoc here, because Eric Chandra was battling for the lead nose to tail with your race leader, is now 6 seconds away. So either something has happened, or there's just been some unfortunate timing with the lap traffic. So that one has spread out to the largest gap that we've actually seen so far this entire race between your race leaders. Over 7.5 seconds it is between first and second position. And in LMP2 here, Sam Austin has been very slowly catching to the back of Matt Frost here, and is now looking like he may be able to eye up and overtake and get himself up into 4th in class, 14th on the road as well. So a top 15 overall is still not a bad position to be in, but I'm sure for the bragging rights he would love to get himself up into 4th, and he's got the slipstream. He's going to pull to the inside. How is this one going to play out between the two? It's Frost versus Austin in the LMP2 class. You can see Frost slightly later on the brakes, and there's contact, and they're both going to go for a spin. What has happened here? Frost has also gone off. He's in the gravel too, so the both of them in the gravel now, waiting for a clean spot in the track to get by. They're both going to get on the circuit at the same time. There goes one of the hypercars, and how's this one going to go as well? Because Austin was ahead. Oh, there we go. He's readdressed. I was going to say Sam Austin keeps the position as well. So how is that going to play out if he did maintain that one as well? But that was just hard racing. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of contact there as they were going into the apex. They were both alongside each other, and it was just very awkward contact that spun them both around into the gravel trap. Neither of them have actually lost a position though. They're both still sitting 4th and 5th in class, but that's thanks to the 21-second gap they've got to Matthew Marsh. So luckily they can kind of do a bit of a play on moment here as well for to keep racing on and hard for the remainder of the 21 minutes left in this race. You can see the sun is really starting to start setting now in this one, so expect the vision to start also playing a role in this one. But just a few laps ago, Tyson Robbs had 3 seconds to gain if he wanted to go for a race win here in LMGT3 around Spa. But that gap is now down to just about a second, as now you can see on the timing you've got pit stops actually for your race leader in LMP2, and that's Christian Gennari in the lane, as well as Tom Jones in the background there making their pit stop. So it looks like to be about the 20-minute mark these guys will be doing their pit stops to get themselves to the end of this race, and see the shadows ever getting longer as well around the circuit. So this is going to be an absolute sprint to the end for these guys, and more guys in the LMP2 class as well are also coming into the lane. You've got Sam Austin, Tom Jones, Phil Rando also in the lane. So plenty of pit stops happening up and down the field. But back to Tyson Robbs here in LMGT3, because that gap is now less than a second. Is he going to try and claim that less than a second back to Harry Smiles by trying to go for a undercut by pinning first, or is he going to try and use on-track pace, or is the LMGT3 cars actually just going to make it to the end without having to make that pit stop, which would be excellent driving if they're able to make something like that work out for themselves. So we're going to keep an eye on this gap between Rob and Smiles as well, because that battle for the lead of the LMGT3 class is only a matter of time away from really kicking off between those two as well. But currently sitting only a few tenths behind is Ricky Packham as well, on the back of Chris Fraser. So this could be a change for the podium positionings here in hypercar class. So it's going to be very important to see how this one plays out. Fraser just dipping in a wheel into the gravel on the exit of that corner, previously just gone through by. And once more as well out onto the gravel, so that's not going to help his run now through Blanchimont and into the bus stop chicane. So he could be vulnerable here if he has lost enough speed to Ricky Packham, and you can see the closing speed for the BMW. He's right there on the tail. Is there going to be an overtake done here? No. Thinks better of it, gets off onto the brakes as much sooner than Fraser actually, and is going to pursue this battle even further as well. But the gap between Tyson Robbs and Harry Smiles is now only at 4/10 of a second. How is this one going to play out? We've got two really pivotal battles that are currently playing out on the circuit at the same time. Unfortunately, I can't be at the two places at once, so we're going to have to try and work out which one is going to play ahead. But it's going to be Tyson Robbs. Look at this, only 2/10 of a second behind, and he's now got a nice long straight coming up to help his fight as well for this next one. But look at this, Packham now right alongside for third position. Chris Fraser down the inside. Is this one going to play out cleanly? How's this one going to go? Because at the same time, down the back straight, here is Tyson Robb all over the back of Harry Smiles. Harry Smiles has held this one from the start of the race. He had a ripper start to get himself ahead of the pole sitter. That was Alex Tonkin, who unfortunately now looking at the timing finds himself 4 laps behind. So it has not been a great race for your pole sitter. Thinks better of it this time around and doesn't go for the move into the bus stop chicane. But you can see the different line he's taking through there as well, trying to open up the second part of the chicane to get a better run going down this part of the circuit. But it is going to be not a move into turn 1, because you would want to be trying to go for the move down this back straight using the slipstream and try and go for the move where we just saw a failed attempt going to Lacombe's, which is turn 7, 8 and 9. So let's see how this plays out between these two. We know the pace is there for Tyson Robbs, but how much is Harry Smiles going to defend this one? And this is going to make it interesting, because now Hypercar's getting involved as well, having to go around the two of them, battling it out for the race lead. Down the Camel Straight they run. Slipstream is in use. A little bit of a tag as well, I reckon that was. I think that was a little bit of a touch between the two. He tried to pull out from the Slipstream, but did it too late and wasn't able to make the overtake in the end and backed out of it. So that could have ended absolutely terribly between your two race leaders in LMGT3, but the battle continues. The gap still only a couple of tenths of a second between the two. So it is really heating up now between these guys as well, battling it out for the race win. The gap between Chris Fraser and Packham, though, has spread out to nearly a second between the two. So that battle is going to fizzle out just a tad here in the hypercar class, but all eyes are currently on how these two will race on together. We've seen that it's going to get a little bit heated. We've already seen a little bit of contact and a little bit of a swerve of the defense down the inside. He's going to run and he's going to make the move stick as well. So that was a little bit of a late weave there from Harry Smiles to try and off-put Tyson from going for the move, but he gets the job done. And Smiles now also absolutely under attack from one of the LMP2 cars. How's this one going to play out? All safe and all done, but unfortunately there, with the timing of getting lapped as well, immediately lost a second to your now new race leader of Tyson Robb. So from pit lane to the lead of LMGT3, that has been a brilliant drive for himself. Speaking of leaders, Christian Ganeri still leads the way. Over 7 seconds it is now to Matthew Marsh. Matthew Marsh still yet to make a pit stop, so that's why he's found himself up into second position. Christian Ganeri, though, has made a pit stop, so he is on track to go for a sprint to the end. Gutierrez in the hypercar class, though, is still leading the way. Hasn't made a pit stop yet until now, so he's now pulling into the lane, and he's had a lead of about 7 seconds as well to Chandra. Is Chandra going to follow him in? The answer is yes. So your top two in hypercar are now in the lane for their pit stop here. So how's this one going to play out? And is Ricky Packham, how is he going to go with this one as well? All over the grass trying to get by one of the LMGT3 cars. Is he too going to pull it into the lane? No, he doesn't. He keeps it going. But that was Chris Fraser in the background who did go into the lane, and so he's going to take himself now out of the battle for the podium and pull himself into the lane. Ricky Packham now finds himself outside of the pit lane. Now finds himself with the provisional race lead, but is Gutierrez now exiting the first part of the pit lane. But with the multi-class, there is going to be a long journey down this second part of the pit lane, exiting at the top of the hill. So all to play for in a hypercar. We've had a very interesting strategy play out, because how much time is Ricky now going to be able to find himself? And actually Chris Donnelly is now taking the lead ahead of Ricky. So what's going on here? We've had a switch of positions for the overall race lead here in hypercar. These two guys still need to make a pit stop here, but they may just be able to pull something out the bag and see if they can't get themselves in a battle for the podium here, because it was a very interesting battle that was about to pursue between all the hypercar guys, and we're going to have to wait and see if once this order has fizzled out a bit, once the pit stop strategies have filtered on through. But here in the LMP2 class, you've now got Ben Vintner all over the back of Matthew Marsh, trying to see if he can't find himself for an overtake as well. So it's currently sitting at half a second between the two. So with the slipstream, he's going to be able to pull that in at about 4/10 of a second. What's he going to do under the brakes? It's 3/10 back out the 4/10. So he's pretty good under the brakes going into this braking zone here. But what is the pace like for himself in the middle part of the sector? You can see he's actually pulled in a massive amount of time. 2/10 of a second it is now between the two of them. So that has been an absolute massive gain in time for those two guys. And you can see once more through the corners, absolutely on it for Vintner, that is. And looking at their best race lap times, so Matthew Marsh a 2:10 flat, and Ben has done a 2:81. So the pace is definitely on Ben's side for this one. So let's see how this one plays out between the two of them. So I'm going to say it is going to be Ben making a move very quickly, with how much time he's caught up to the back of them. And trying to recall as well, if I think Ben was one of the drivers who has already made a pit stop. Matthew Marsh yet to make a pit stop, so we'll have to see how this one plays out in the the race strategy department, because Matthew Marsh was on for a top 5 position if he was able to pull off something out of the blue in his pit stop cycle here. But back to the front of the field, because Ricky Packham, who took the provisional race lead momentarily, then lost it to Chris Donnelly, has now got himself out of the pit lane and is working his way through the second part. But Kateri here has reclaimed his race lead. The gap was about 7 seconds by the time he came into the lane. What is it going to be when Eric Chandra... Oh, actually, Chandra is back into the lane. So what's going on here? We have got 2 pit stops now happening for the guy who was in second position. So this has not played out very well for himself, because he has gone from a net second position now dropping down to 6th. Is he going to drop any further? Because he is going to have the Ferrari coming by very shortly. There goes the Ferrari into 6th. So he's dropped to 7th. Is Nando anywhere close? No, Nando's also in the pit lane. So he will probably hold on to Sun's position here if he doesn't lose it out to Steve Lewis. Where is Steve Lewis going to be in comparison to himself? There he goes. So he's going to lose that position to Steve Lewis. So something has gone amiss here in the pit stop for Eric, because he's gone from, second position on occasion, battling it out for the race lead, to now losing out so much time. He now finds himself over a minute away from the race lead of Nicholas Kateri. So that is massive news. He was on for a very, very good result. And actually just got word from the stewards, it was a drive-through penalty for causing a collision with a blue flagged car. So we heard earlier that they'd all been given a formal warning for their driving conduct with all of the blue flagging, and he is the first to be penalised, and unfortunately that has taken him now out of contention for second position with only less than 10 minutes on the clock in this one. So this has not gone to plan at all for himself. He's going to be absolutely pissed. I would imagine the red mist is absolutely ascending, and which means now this man completely unchallenged, because he has now got 30 seconds to second position. So he can absolutely cruise it if he wishes to the end here with only 9 minutes left to go. But the battle here in the back is well and truly not done with yet, because you got the 2 BMWs are battling it out for P4 on the road and P4 in class, and then just up ahead you got Chris Donnelly and Chris Fraser trying to go out as well. Because so this is exactly what I thought was going to be happening with the pit cycle, was going to close up all the hypercars. We're going to start getting a really good battle, because they're kind of in and amongst each other's company, but unfortunately they'll just capture the lap traffic at slightly the wrong moment, and it would ruin any possibility for them to try and go for an overtake in one of the prime overtaking positions. And this is one of them right here. We have seen a little bit of drama so far here at turn 7, but last few laps, from what we've seen, it has been fairly clean between all of these drivers, and the gap between Fraser and Donnelly also closing up just a little bit, and that's not going to help the gap either for Donnelly, just locking it up in the downhill braking zone. But he's all right up the back of your race leader in LMGT3, and that is actually a change of position for Chris Fraser. That's a very opportunistic move to get himself now up to second position, because I had to get by, I think that was Tyson Robbs. It was Tyson Robbs in the LMGT3, and once more he's got a couple of cars right behind him again of the hypercars, but that is now Chris Fraser up into second position. So very opportunistic move when Donnelly was stuck behind one of the LMGT3 cars. And look at this, once more, the big tail whip going into the braking zone, a bit of a lockup as well. There is something amiss with that car, because he is not looking very happy at all, and someone has gone wide into the gravel, and that was Chris Fraser as well. So look at this, a mistake from Fraser has now put the momentum back into favour of the 2M BMWs. Is there going to be a possible overtake here? Going into, you can see the headlights are now on for these drivers and around the outside, not of both of them, not of both of them. Is he going to be able to get it done? Harry Lawrence, can he get this move done of both? No, he can't get both of them, but that was a fantastic overtake. And what was that? That was awesome overtaking moves are coming from Harry Lawrence. Once again, looking to the outside now of Chris Fraser. How's this one going to play out? He's going to get the exit. The LMP2 car gets out of the way and off the throttle to allow all of our guys who are battling it out here in Hypercar to continue on with this awesome battle, but he's going to unfortunately get just in the way of the 2M BMWs, but that's closed up the gap between those two. How's the slipstream for the Porsche though? Going down the Camel Straight, because look at this into the background, the BMWs, they are all so close. Only a half a second between the two of them, 6/10 between Fraser and Lawrence. So we have got ourselves an absolute thrilling race on at the moment in the top portion of the Hypercar field, and you can see more evidence of brake lockups coming up ahead. So don't say these guys aren't trying. They are 100% full throttle to the end, and especially now with only 5 minutes left of this race. So there is still so much to play for in 5 minutes. That is plenty of mileage around circuit with the sheer size of Spa. So there is plenty to take a look at and see how this one goes forward. So let's keep going here with the battles, because look at this, Packham still right behind his fellow BMW driver of Chris Donnelly by only about 4/10 of a second, but we saw the dust get flicked up by Chris Fraser just ahead, so it is still very much all on, and very well so. The gap out in front though, you can see Guerrero has extended his lead to over 30 seconds, so he is absolutely out of here. He is gone, and he has sailed off into this Belgian sunset here tonight on Le Mans Ultimate. A fantastic simulator this is, and hence why we are using it for this series, because it is just got absolutely everything that you need. And look at this, and it's a very good courtesy from the LM GT3 cars to be getting out of the way they have been, despite the formal warning hypercars have been receiving as well. So we have got a 3-car train now for the final spot of the podium. It's being led by Chris Fraser in his Porsche. He's got a little bit of a gap. He's got about 8/10 to Chris Donnelly in the BMW, who is tailed very closely by Ricky Packham in another BMW. So it's BMW versus Porsche for the podium here, but the Porsche has got the legs on the straight. He's been able to pull out another little bit of a 10th or so to try and cover off his podium charge. But Harry Lawrence, after making a couple of really good overtakes, especially that one to the bus stop, I just can't believe that we saw that. He has now extended a lead over into over third place by two seconds. So he has absolutely taken the opportunity and bolted to get himself a P2 here in the hypercars. But this battle is, yeah, absolutely on for young and old. Through this section though, there's not too much they can do. They'll be getting a little bit of dirty air from all of the aero on these hypercars, so it's going to be interesting to see how close they can stay between the two, between the three of them, sorry. But look at this, they've got an LMP2 car sitting right in front of them, and that could slow up Chris Fraser here for these two BMWs to try and get themselves further ahead on the timing order here. If they can get themselves a podium, I'm sure they'll be absolutely stoked with it. And you can see this section of the track now completely covered in the shadows. So the sun is well and truly setting here at Spa-Francorchamps, and that is a was that a car off into the gravel? I think it was just, oh yes, there is a car. There was a GT3 car off into the grass. Who was that has gone for a absolute wild ride? That would have been through Blanchimont, very, very fast part of the circuit. We'll have to try and work that one out later on. But there was definitely an LMGT3 car. I reckon it was maybe an AMG, Mercedes AMG. I'm not too sure though. In the background, a shot facing the wrong way, but look at this. So Ricky Packham has lost a heap of time from Chris Donnelly, but Donnelly now all over the back of Chris Fraser. How is this one going to play? It's Chris versus Chris. It's BMW versus Porsche. We've got the Camel Straight to play. How is the slipstream going to be on this BMW? You can see not actually using the slipstream already, moving to the outside, and he's definitely got the run. How's the braking performance? Not quite there to be able to make a move around the outside, but he's definitely got some pace on board that BMW with now only 2 minutes left in this race. So there is definitely at least a battle for the podium positions on to the end. And then looking up the timings, the only other drivers are within a second of each other is in the LMP2 class. You've got Paul Russell, who's 0.4 of a second behind Phil Rando. So they've all kind of eventually, after the pit cycle, found their own part of the circuit. They've found their own part of this 7-kilometer circuit and have kind of stuck to themselves and decided not to risk it all right at the end for those extra few championship positions. So it's a little bit unfortunate for our viewing, but look at this battle because Fraser has now once again dipped a wheel into the gravel. We've seen him do that quite a few times so far in this race. He's definitely not afraid to be finding the limits, and that was a bit of an awkward spot to catch the LMGT3 car, and that's what's caused a change of position now, because Packham has got himself now through, and that was Chris Fraser completely on the grass getting past that Lexus RC, and so he's been able to pull away now 1.5 seconds, 1.7 seconds to P4 now. So he is kind of with now only a few seconds left on the clock before he hits 0, may have just saved himself and kept a podium here unless something happens. And we've seen with the lap cars anything can happen, as now we fall within 30 seconds left of this race, and with the positioning of Nicholas Cotero on the circuit, this will be the final lap of this 1 hour sprint here at Spa-Francorchamps, and it is going to, looks like it will go the way of Nicholas Cotero, because he has got a 33-second lead over anyone else. He did have a bit of company of Eric Chandra, who unfortunately received a drive-through penalty for causing a collision, and so that removed himself from a possible battle for the race win, which is very unfortunate, but sometimes is the way the cookie crumbles in motorsport, that is. And that was a very slow moving LMGT3 car, and it almost looked like it was missing a rear wing as well, so that may have been the car that saw backwards at Blanchimont for the last time around that was. But it's foot to the floor now. He's got another LMGT3 car that he can overtake, and he has driven a fantastic race. We have not seen a lot get by this guy. He has done fantastic in Imola, fantastic in Silverstone, despite not getting the race win, and the same in Imola. This will be his first race win of the season, but he has shown that it was only a matter of time for him to get the race win, because he's going to cross the line and claim victory at Spa for the 1 hour sprint, and he is going to do it in dominance ahead of Harry Lawrence. And for the LMP2 cars, it is going to be Christian Gennari. He's got over 2 seconds to second position. Where's the positioning for Tyson Robbs? He's still further on the lap, so let's stay on board with Christian Gennari here as he rounds out his lap as well. So he's coming through at Blanchimont as well. So he's only got the bus stop chicane to navigate to claim a 3rd race win in the LMP2 class. So he has been absolutely unstoppable so far this season, and he is going to cross the line now to claim 3 from 3, 100% win rate here in season 2 of this sprint series, and a fantastic drive from Granero, just ahead of Ben as well in second position. Tom Jones, though, a bit further behind, 55 seconds further behind, that is, from 3rd position. But Tyson Robbs just up the road. He is also going to be rounding out his lap here as well to claim a victory from what I believe has been the pit lane. I'm not too sure if we've got the confirmation of that one. He didn't set a lap time in the qualifying session, wasn't on the grid to start the race, but he did indeed find himself working his way through the field, and now has got himself a 22-second lead in LMGT3. So I thought his drives in the previous races have been mega, but this one takes the cake. He's going across the line, and he'll take 3 from 3 as well for this season in LMGT3. Tyson Robbs is the LMGT3 winner ahead of Harry Smiles, and he has got a few corners left to navigate as well. He's got a lap car just in front of himself, an LMP2 car right behind for company, but you can't take it away from this guy because he led for a good chunk of this race. He took the race lead away from the pole sitter straight away into the race. Held the lead for some time, but didn't have an answer for the pace of Tyson Robb. He'll cross the line in second position. Jonathan Eaton will take third position, but is already in the lane. So your top 3 in the hypercar is Guerrero, Fraser, and Lawrence. In the end, holds out your top 3. Guerrero wins LMP2, Wittner in second position, and Tom Jones. He is still yet to cross the line. Has he crossed the line for a third position? Yeah, he had 52 seconds that he had to gain for getting himself across the line as well, so he may have just mistimed it for crossing the line to round this one out, but we'll stick with him and see him across the line for the checkered flag. So he will take out in third position in LMP3. He has also driven a fantastic race. We saw him also in that little incident. Got the drivers mixed up, but he's still driven a fantastic race. The 2 drivers I was about to mention was Sam Austin and Matt Frost, who we saw collide, trying to battle it out for 4th and 5th on the road. They have crossed the line to finish in 7th and 8th. So they have unfortunately not gone on to continue as good as they probably would have liked. But for Tom Jones here, he's only now got a couple of corners left to go as well, being Blanchimont and the bus stop chicane. So as I said, all these drivers have played a fantastic race here. It has been a fantastic watch for this one here, and finishing under lights as well is very fitting for a circuit of this nature too. So Tom Jones, very well placed third position, and he's going to, I'm sure, be very happy with a podium, and maybe next time look to try and not be 55 seconds away on. He's actually crossed the line, so he's going to pull it in for the lane, and that is going to be all the drivers now across the line. So that has been a fantastic race with, that was Guerrero winning a hypercar, Granero winning LMP2, and Robbs winning the LMGT3 class. So it is absolute domination from LMP2 and LMGT3 to win 3 from 3. But that is also our 3rd different race winner in the hypercar class. So it is going to be shaping up to be a extremely fascinating and extremely interesting season coming up next. And speaking of coming up next, we are continuing our leg here in the Northern Hemisphere, going to Paul Ricard in France for a wet 1-hour race. So it is going to be a very good one. We saw when the weather did arrive in Silverstone, it really switched up the pace of these drivers. They got a week to practice, and they have got it all to play for. So next one should be a one to not miss. And that will be all from me in the Combox. I have been Peter Clark, and this has been a sensational TV production, and remember to keep it flat out.
Sensational TV YouTube channel. Don't fucking miss it.